In this video, we're going to talk about how to change the labeling on a graph that you've already created in Microsoft Excel. So as an example, we're going to use a histogram that we had previously created in Excel that ended up coming up without any labels. And the reason it came up without any labels is because we had only given the data values that we actually typed in. We didn't actually label those columns. So the first thing that we're going to do, this graph here happens to be a graph of the number of nurses per 100,000 residents in the 50 states and District of Columbia. So we're going to label our two columns of data so that we can use those labels on the graph quickly. So this first column will label nurses, and the second column will be the number per 100,000 residents. And now that we've labeled those, we need to tell the graph that we also want that included. So to do that, we're going to click just up on the graph here, and you'll notice it now highlights not only the graph but the data that's included on that graph. And as soon as we highlighted that chart, this Chart Tools menu popped up. So we're going to go to Chart Tools, and we're going to go to the Design tab. And again, the first thing we want to do is kind of extend that data up to include the labels. So we're going to click on Select Data, and now even though this window is popped up in the front, behind it we can still re-highlight the data that we want selected. Notice I've added in that nurses and numbers, and we'll click OK. And so you'll notice now that some of that information has come up on the graph. But what we also want to do is maybe make this a little bit more clear. Maybe that isn't the way that we wanted to label it necessarily. So still on this Chart Tools Design tab, there's a Quick Layouts button. And what we want to do is we want to put this in the format of a more traditional labeling scheme where we have our x-axis labeled, our y-axis labeled, and then a title for the chart. So when I click on Quick Layouts, it'll show me some samples, and what I'm probably going to choose is this one here that's labeled layout number 8 because I can see it has an x-axis, a y-axis label, and a title. So I'll click on that, and that's now going to change our graph. And you'll notice it didn't just automatically put in these titles. So on the bottom I'm going to change this here, and instead of axis title, I'm going to change that to nurses. In this axis title, I'm going to change to number per 100,000 residents. And you'll notice as I'm typing this one here, it's not showing up in this box yet. It is up here in the formula bar, but once I hit enter, it will change down there. And this title, I want it to be a little bit more clear rather than just number per 100,000 residents. We'll say number of nurses per 100,000 residents in the we'll say by state in the US. And now we have that title. We can still do some modifications to our chart if we like to extend it down a little bit to make those bars a little bit easier to read. But this is sort of a general, simple way to change the labeling using some of the quick tools in Microsoft Excel.